You know what really freaks people out? Wrestlers changing their looks. Do you remember when Chris Jericho came out wearing pants instead of tights and it was the talk of the town? All he really did was cut his trousers, but it sent people nuts. How could he do this to us, and why for some reason did he now look naked even though so many other wrestlers wore such attire? Just one of those weird things that happens. Your eyes go crazy. Even I got this when I ditched my singlet for shorts, and I'm just some bald idiot on the internet. I don't deserve anything. As my mum often tells me, that is a joke. My mother is lovely. Anyway, it means this can be a huge risk, but it can also result in major rewards. Even the smallest shift can get people interested in you again, something that's imperative when fans are beginning to tire of you. That's why taking some time off can equally be as beneficial. Never let yourself be overexposed. I'm Simon from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button. This is 10 WWE superstars who gambled on a new look. Number 10, Shawn Michaels. You know what the Heartbreak Kid did to get more attention? He switched from tight pants to baggy ones. Yep, I am not joking. It all started in 2002 when he won his final World Championship in the Elimination Chamber. There he had some bizarre brown trousers that were also quite baggy, as he had a wardrobe snafu before the event. And to try and calm the reaction down, he switched back to tight so fans could finally sleep again at night. There was another issue a few years later though. The sheer impact of pro wrestling started to weigh on Michaels' shoulders, or more specifically his knees. It was glaringly obvious that he was wearing giant knee braces given his outfit was so snug on his body. He knew he had to hide these, so he went back to the flares, but as these were in an odd shade of brown, no one really cared this time around. They sparkled like some of his best attires had, and that is all people cared about. We just wanted to be wowed by his fancy pants. Throw in that some of his best work happened as he wore these, and all was right with the world. His gamble paid off, and that was that. It would never return again. Number 9, Tazz. Tazz had such a badass outfit in ECW that it was impossible to think of him wearing anything else. He was the human suplex machine, and he was booked so well that you just believed he was an actual fighter. It was some kind of delicious irony where he laughed in the face of what pro wrestling was while wearing a singlet, which is traditional pro wrestling garb. It was beautifully thought out. When he came to WWE, however, he looked more like a gimmick than anything else, as he was wearing a boiler suit. Apparently just walking off a Slipknot video. It got even stranger because he was put into a feud with Jerry Lawler where Raven helped him out. No one saw that coming. New metal was running wild. The main reason this didn't work though is because WWE didn't seem to want to make it work. Tazz marched into the company and choked out Kurt Angle, who was undefeated at the time, and it seemed like the train was well and truly behind him. But then, as said, he was in a feud with the King, who many at this stage just saw as a commentator. That doesn't add up, and a few years later, Tazz was an announcer himself. I mean, he did a great job, but I think many would say he still had a little bit left in him as an active wrestler. Number 8, Dolph Ziggler. It's fair to say that when you first see the Dolph Ziggler we're all used to, he looks a bit like Shawn Michaels or Mr. Perfect. That could be intentional in the sense he certainly mimicked his career after those guys, because he has always been a super bumping machine, the SBM. Regardless what you think, however, it was a million times better than what he did in 2011 when he decided to shake things up. Described as the new and improved Ziggles by then valet Vicky Guerrero, Dolph cut his hair, dyed it brown, and honestly looked like everybody else on the roster. Even though this was years ago, he somehow had a resemblance to Chad Gable, and a more timely one would have been Cody Rhodes. It's like he morphed into a creator wrestler in WWE 2K. Thankfully, he realized pretty quick this wasn't a good idea, and as soon as he'd grown his hair back out, he went blonde again, and we could all calm down. This was Dolph Ziggler for better or worse, although yes, it was definitely for the better. There was another change along the way when he kind of became a hair metal enthusiast that looked like he'd fallen out of the 80s. I guess he's kind of still there now, but as long as he doesn't go back to the brown guy, we're all okay. Number 7, Chris Jericho. We've mentioned this already, and really there are loads you could pick given that Jericho is the master of reinvention. He's had so many looks over the years, including turning up in New Japan, seeming like he was Robert Smith from The Cure, as why the hell not? It was in 2008 when he arguably went through his biggest transformation as he dropped anything familiar. Channeling legendary wrestler Nick Bockwinkel, gone were the flashy waistcoats and, as said, long tights, and even changed how he talked. Now he was infuriatingly slow with his speech and started using long words that many fans probably had to Google to find out what they meant. You could have argued this was Jericho's brother. Above all else, he refused to engage the audience and pitied them instead. He even told WWE not to sell any merchandise with his face or likeness on it because he wanted to be the ultimate heel. There's no question this paid off, and many will still tell you this was the finest 12-month period Chris ever had. It also started to make many of us realize that Jericho was far more of a performer than maybe we'd realized, and that was after a decade of kicking ass anyway. Number 6, Mankind. Like others in this list, Mick Foley just went nuts in 1998 and changed his in-character image. Twice that year, he had been manipulated by Vince McMahon in order to screw over Stone Cold Steve Austin, and to back this up, Mankind began wearing a smart shirt and tie, even though he was still wearing his terrifying mask. Many fans were quick to quip this looked ridiculous, but that was the point. He didn't look the part because it wasn't his. Foley was being controlled by the powers that be. Mick did an amazing job with this because despite being part of the bad guys, he also managed to get sympathy from the crowd. He had miles more depth than anybody else on the roster, and it was also the catalyst for turning him fully babyface. So yeah, he looked bad on purpose, and I'm not sure who else could have dealt with that. He was everything wrong with a corporate world champion and kind of even less suited to that role than Austin, which was also part of the storyline. Whereas the rattlesnake couldn't have the wool pulled over his eyes though, Mankind was ripe for the picking. I swear Mick Foley could have been an actor had he wanted to be. He did this kind of stuff all the damn time, and it never felt contrived or ham-fisted. Number 5, Bobby Roode, or Robert Roode as he was for all of a day. Even though Vince McMahon had Roode under contract for a couple of years, the boss clearly didn't realize that the gimmick took some inspiration from Rick Rude. When he saw that they had the same last name, that was that. It was time for a change. Isn't that right, Owen Hart? So in 2019, Robert Roode was born, and he even chose, or was forced, to grow a Rick Rude-like mustache. He teamed with Dolph Ziggler for a while, which was fitting as they were treated quite similar to one another, but the major problem was, even with this shift, WWE still didn't do anything major with him. He wasn't even allowed to grind his hips or say the audience looked like pigs. Admittedly, that would have been too much, but we were kind of meant to think because he had changed his name and grown some facial hair that he was a new beast. Doesn't work like that. The worst part is Twitter will still yell at you for calling him Bobby, even though the Robert version has been left in the past. You can't win, I tell you, and really, who even knows these days? I got no clue. Number 4, Triple H. Triple H cutting off his long hair was like opening the door in the morning and finding out that you were now on Mars. It was just so unexpected and the game looked utterly different. It was all down to his transition from wrestler to behind-the-scenes guru, and after WWE had teased this when he kind of retired at SummerSlam 2012, Trips took this as far as he could by getting rid of the mane that we'd been familiar with since the mid-90s. That's a long-ass time. Now, it was kind of funny at first because he looked like an executive from 1987, but as a man who also cut off long hair to no hair, that just happens sometimes. You go for the easiest option before figuring out what actually works. But yes, Triple H didn't look too dissimilar to Patrick Bateman. It got better than this soon after, and now he looks weird when you see the old version, and that's why life is crazy. Things can change on a dime, and I bet if he did start to grow it back, we would all hate it. Also, how the hell has it been 8 years since he did this? We have to slow down life, people. It is moving too fast. Number 3, The Undertaker. Another entry where you can kind of take your pick. Some fans liked what The Undertaker did so much at WrestleMania 28, they still question why he didn't keep it. For you see, during the build for that match, the dead man didn't reveal his face once. He had a dark hood over his head the entire time, and that was part of the fun. Because when he did throw it back, which was accompanied by thunder and lightning because of course it was, we were greeted to a badass new look or a very threatening mohawk. As well as looking awesome, it also held back the fact that, like many of us, Taker was losing his hair a little bit. He also did it at exactly the right time to give his character a new lease of life, and it just made it seem like he was gonna ruin someone. I don't know why, it just worked, and it was a good retort to anyone who thought the Phenom wouldn't be the same without long hair. Taker also worked it into the storyline, pleasing every veteran on the planet, and while his longer haired look will always be satisfying, there was more legs here. It's a shame we didn't let it play out. Number 2, Bray Wyatt. Yet somebody else who I'm sure has plenty more up their sleeves, Bray Wyatt just gets it. Husky Harris to his new character was one thing, but after a long absence from WWE TV, his return was something else. Not only did he now have a Mr. Rogers type persona that was equal parts lovable and terrifying, but the other side to this was the Fiend, a serial killer-esque madman with a genuinely fantastic mask to boot. It completely eradicated any damage that had been done to Wyatt thanks to bad feuds and booking. And while that red light isn't everybody's favourite, we still have to take a step back and admire everything that Bray has done. You just know it's all from his own brain too. His gimmick is even responsible for changing other people as well, given that as of me saying this, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan and The Miz have all gone through transformations of their own thanks to The Fiend. Really hope WWE allows this to shine for the long term because there's so much potential here, and it has that one aspect few do in World Wrestling Entertainment today. He is flippin' cool. Number 1, the British Bulldog. As I say every time I bring him up, the British Bulldog will always be a hero of mine. To see someone from the UK make it so far at a time where it rarely happened was truly something special, and he did this all on merit. So many people forget nowadays that Davey Boy Smith could go in the ring, and go he did. Something that didn't serve him too well though was the Attitude Era. It wasn't massively his fault as he just wasn't allowed to evolve with the times, but the big shift he was given was that he now wore jeans. Okay. I still don't get why this happened. It's not like it helped him stand out, and the many injuries that he was suffering with at this time just came together and pushed him down the pecking order. I mean, he looked a bit like he'd just stumbled from the ECW arena or from some roof he was building. The weirdest part was at Unforgiven 1999. The Bulldog came out in Union Jack tights and looked like a different and better wrestler instantly. Why we didn't just stick with this, I'll never know, but hey, who really cares? He's still a legend, he always will be, and WWE, please put him in the Hall of Fame. Thanks. Know of any WWE superstars who gambled on a new look? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from What Culture, and I will talk to you again soon.